The discussion of Hajj among the Shiites has evolved from being purely a jurisprudential matter or a casual debate among Islamic schools to a complex issue where theology intersects with politics, rituals intersect with identity. While the broader Muslim Ummah views Hajj to Mecca as the unifying pillar that is essential for the validity of Islam, the Imami sect adds details and practices that make the experience unique. This has sparked ongoing debates around issues such as the Tawaf for women, the Hajj of Tamattu, and the visit to Karbala, which has become known as the largest religious gathering in the world. With the Iranian Revolution of 1979, a new dimension was added to Hajj. It was no longer just a religious ritual, but also became a political arena, marked by slogans such as Al-Bara'ah from the polytheists and calls to internationalize the two holy mosques. This opened the door to ongoing tensions between the sanctity of the ritual and the state's logic. In this video, we will delve into the details of this debate. We will explore the pillars of Hajj among both Sunnis and Shiites, examine the symbolism of Karbala and Najaf, and track how Hajj transitioned from a purely religious space to a political one. Ultimately, we aim to understand, where does the obligation end and where does identity begin? Stay with us until the end, and don't forget to support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more updates. The discussion of the pilgrimage rituals among the Twelver Shia begins from a fundamental point, which is the general framework of the rituals. It almost coincides with what is practiced by the majority of Sunni Muslims, as it includes ihram, tawaf, sa'i, standing at Arafat, overnight stay, and the stoning of the Jamarat. However, Imami jurisprudence adds to this system special details that give the experience a distinct flavor and make it more closely connected to symbolic and spiritual interpretations. The Hajj al-Tamattu is considered the main pattern among the Shia, especially for those who are far from the boundaries of Mecca, approximately more than 88 kilometers. In this case, the pilgrim first performs a complete umrah, including tawaf, sa'i, and taqsir, shortening of the hair, then temporarily exits the state of ihram, only to re-enter ihram later in the same year to perform the rituals of Hajj. This separation between Umrah and Hajj provides the pilgrim with an opportunity to rest and renew intention, making the experience, in their view, more complete. Those who are near Mecca, on the other hand, are given the choice between Hajj al-Ifrad or Hajj al-Qiran, while Tamattu remains the primary choice for the rest of the pilgrims. One of the most distinctive features of Shia rituals is the Tawaf al-Nisa, women's circumambulation, which is regarded as an essential pillar for the completion of the pilgrimage and full release from the state of ihram. If the pilgrim does not perform this circumambulation, their pilgrimage is considered incomplete according to Shia belief, and it is always followed by what is known as the prayer of Tawaf al-Nisa. This ritual is not limited to its outward appearance, but is understood among the Imamiyya as a symbolic transition, placing the pilgrim on the threshold of complete spiritual purity. The circumambulation is linked here to the resumption of marital life after the pilgrimage, as intimacy between a man and his wife is not permitted until it is performed. Thus, the circumambulation transcends a mere physical movement around the Kaaba to carry a deeper doctrinal meaning connected with purity and spiritual clarity after completing the rituals. In addition, the Imami jurisprudence emphasizes the importance of visiting Medina, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, and Lady Fatima al-Zahra are buried. This visit is not one of the pillars of pilgrimage, yet it is classified among the highly recommended acts that add a special spiritual dimension to the pilgrim's journey. It represents an extension of the spiritual path that begins in Mecca and deepens in Medina, thereby completing the image of pilgrimage as an experience connected to the Prophet and his household. When the term Hajj comes to mind, The image that often comes to mind is Mecca and the plain of Arafat. However, in the Twelver Shiite perspective, Karbala and Najaf emerge as parallel spaces that provide the ritual with a renewed identity and spiritual dimension. While Mecca receives nearly 9 million pilgrims annually, Karbala, during the Arbaeen pilgrimage, transforms into what resembles the largest religious gathering in the world, with tens of millions of visitors flowing from Iraq and beyond. The sheer magnitude of the crowds has solidified in the media and society the description of the cosmic scene, which no other gathering can rival. The visit to Karbala is not merely a religious tourist activity or a seasonal journey to visit a shrine. It is a doctrinal practice that embodies meanings of loyalty and commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hussein bin Ali in Karbala. The journey known as the Mashaya, from Najaf to Karbala, has evolved from just a walk into a communal ritual symbolizing a declaration of loyalty and a renewal of the covenant with Hussein, as well as a collective repentance for what is seen in Shiite imagination as the betrayal of the Ummah towards him during the Battle of Karbala. The significance of this visit is cemented through stories of virtues that circulate in Shiite sources, which exalt the value of visiting Hussein's grave, especially on the day of Arafah. Some narrations state that visiting the shrine is equivalent to 1,000 Hajj, 1,000 Umrah, and 1,000 Ghazwa, placing the visit in a spiritual position above many other acts of worship. Additionally, there are other texts that go even further, claiming that Allah selected Karbala as a sacred land 24,000 years before Mecca itself. Although the interpretation of these narrations remains controversial, they explain the symbolic and emotional weight that makes Karbala not just a shrine, but a center of Shiite identity and a collective memory that is renewed every year. Thus, it becomes clear that the presence of Karbala and Najaf in the Shiite consciousness is not intended to cancel or replace the Hajj to Mecca, but rather to craft a renewed identity grounded in the tragedy of Karbala, and to restore it in the form of collective rituals. When the jurisprudential and narrative texts turn into living practices, we are faced with an extraordinary scene during the Arbaeen pilgrimage in Karbala. The stretch from Najaf to Karbala, approximately 80 kilometers, transforms during these days into something resembling a temporary city, with thousands of service processions scattered along the road. These processions, managed by volunteers from various age groups and social classes, offer visitors an overwhelming array of services: hot meals, cold water, temporary resting places, and even mobile medical clinics. All of this is provided free of charge, driven by a deep religious devotion that blends religious loyalty with a sense of social solidarity. In addition to this human spectacle, mourning assemblies are held, where the tragedy of Karbala is recited loudly and tearfully. Visitors engage in rituals such as chest beating, though some practices remain subject to ongoing jurisprudential and social debate. This entire scene is seen by many researchers as a social miracle. How is it possible for millions of people to walk on the same path and receive everything they need: food, drink, rest, through a fully voluntary system without the whole structure collapsing? The answer lies in the network of processions, which operate with precise mechanisms and an amazing degree of integration. This is likely what makes the live broadcasts from Karbala every year the focal point of millions worldwide, where images that are hard to believe are broadcast, an uninterrupted human sea flowing, and services being offered with love and selflessness. The presence of Karbala and Hajj did not remain confined to rituals and ceremonies, but transcended into the political scene after the victory of the Iranian Revolution in 1979. Since then, the Iranian leadership adopted the slogan "Al-Bara'ah from the polytheists" as part of its rhetoric during the Hajj season, transforming some processions within the holy sites into what resembled political demonstrations. This step placed Hajj at the heart of the Saudi-Iranian dispute, turning it from a unifying spiritual ritual into a battleground of sectarian pull and tug from time to time. In addition, the idea of internationalizing the two holy mosques gained increasing space in Iranian discourse. The demand to strip Saudi Arabia of the administration of the holy mosques and hand it over to an international Islamic body was presented as a reformist project on the surface. However, at its core, it was read within the context of regional conflict and Iran's desire to extend its symbolic influence over the most significant Muslim sites. Every year, this proposition is reiterated, keeping the ritual open to political manipulation and the circulation of slogans. Thus, Hajj remained a purely religious ritual in Saudi Arabia, while Iran sought to use it as a political platform, making it one of the key sources of tension between the two sides since the late 1970s and continuing to this day. Throughout modern Hajj history, this great ritual has not been immune to attempts at politicization and unrest. It has gone through critical phases that have firmly cemented in the collective memory as invaluable lessons on Hajj security and the need for professional crowd management. In 1986, the Saudi authorities announced the seizure of over 51 kilograms of highly explosive materials found in the luggage of Iranian pilgrims. This incident was considered an attempt to destabilize the security of the holiest place, while Tehran denied the accusations. Then came 1987, which witnessed the Al-Bara'a from the polytheists incident, when the procession of Iranian pilgrims, bearing political slogans, directly clashed with Saudi security forces, resulting in hundreds of deaths and injuries. This led to a significant reduction in the number of Iranian pilgrims, sending a clear message that the sanctity of the ritual does not tolerate politicization. In 1989, deadly explosions occurred near the Haram in Mecca, and a group of Kuwaiti pilgrims was accused of being linked to Iran, though Tehran denied any involvement. This incident turned into another test of the kingdom's ability to protect millions of pilgrims and underscored the need to develop anti-terrorism mechanisms during Hajj. In 1990, one of the deadliest disasters occurred when a stampede in the Mina tunnel leading to the Mina tent city resulted in the death of over 1,400 pilgrims. This exposed the fragility of the infrastructure in handling human traffic and led to the restructuring of crowd management and evacuation policies at the holy sites, making crowd management a field of its own. Decades later, in 2015, the Mina stampede occurred, leaving thousands of victims, including hundreds of Iranians and prominent figures. Despite extensive organizational efforts, this disaster sparked international debate about the ability of the infrastructure to accommodate millions of pilgrims during peak times. In response, advanced technological systems for early warnings and human traffic management were introduced. In addition to these field events, the fundamental disagreement between two contradictory views on the meaning and boundaries of Hajj emerges. Saudi Arabia views the ritual as the most significant pillar of Islam and believes it should remain free of any political agenda. Therefore, it rejects any attempts to raise slogans or organize political marches within the holy sites, considering such acts a deviation from the sacredness of the ritual. On the other hand, Iran seeks to turn the Hajj season into a political platform through slogans like Al-Bara'a from the polytheists and calls for the internationalization of the two holy mosques, placing Hajj under international oversight. This is understood as an attempt to weaken Saudi Arabia's central role. This divergence has caused Hajj to oscillate between the sanctity of worship on one hand and political narratives on the other. While Riyadh believes that the neutrality of the rituals is essential to protect the millions of pilgrims and ensure their safety, Tehran insists that Hajj is an opportunity to display its regional influence and assert its revolutionary discourse. Thus, the question recurs every season: can political discourse strip Hajj of its spiritual meaning and turn it into a battlefield of sectarian confrontation? Or will the sanctity of the two holy mosques remain the fortress that prevents the ritual from being hijacked for temporary projects? Repeated experiences reveal that despite all the challenges, Hajj has remained grounded in the logic of pure worship. Attempts at political exploitation have only strengthened the conviction that the rituals must remain free from sectarian conflicts, and that the management of the season should be based on the established logic of the state, not the fleeting logic of revolution. When the media headlines an exciting term like Shiite Hajj, the audience may imagine that there is an alternative pilgrimage to Mecca, and that the millions flowing to Karbala are performing a ritual equal to the fifth pillar of Islam. However, a deeper jurisprudential examination reveals a completely different picture. Hajj is an obligatory act that can only be performed in Mecca, and no other act, no matter how great its reward, can replace it. Meanwhile, the visit to Karbala is considered one of the greatest recommended acts in the Imami sect, but it remains a visit, not a Hajj. What is popularly known in the media as Karbala Hajj is merely a popular description of the phenomenon of the Arbaeen pilgrimage, a multi-million-person march carrying deep doctrinal and historical symbolism. However, from a jurisprudential perspective, it does not replace Hajj and does not exempt the able-bodied from performing the Hajj in Mecca. Therefore, using the term Hajj here is no more than journalistic sensationalism or sectarian controversy. According to the texts of the Jafari school, there is no Hajj to any place other than the sacred house of Allah in Mecca. At the heart of these jurisprudential details lies what is known as the Tawaf for women, which is a pillar unique to the Imami sect. It is not considered an alternative to the pillars of Hajj, but rather part of the ritual performed within Mecca itself. This tawaf represents, in the eyes of Imami jurisprudence, the dividing line between ihram and full purification, followed by the prayer of the tawaf for women. Here, the jurisprudential specificity does not change the fundamental ruling. The tawaf is performed in Mecca as part of the legitimate Hajj, not in Karbala or any other place. As for the massive crowds in Karbala during occasions like the Arbaeen pilgrimage, this does not bestow upon it the status of Hajj. Rather, it reflects a collective identity that relives the tragedy of Karbala and showcases voluntary service networks organizing the largest human gathering annually in the world. These millions are a reflection of historical and doctrinal memory, unrelated to the replacement or change of the Hajj obligation. The slogan Al-Bara'ah from the polytheists is a political ideological ritual that was strongly introduced after the Iranian Revolution. This slogan is not included in the pillars of Hajj or its obligations in both Sunni and Shiite traditions, but is used as a political protest platform. This illustrates that the blending of religious rituals with political practices is at the root of the confusion in the term Shiite Hajj. In conclusion, Hajj to Mecca remains the unifying pillar for Muslims, while the visit to Karbala is a spiritual journey and a distinctive identity for Shiites, without being an alternative to Hajj. As for politics, it will remain an external factor that occasionally affects the rituals, but the sanctity of worship remains higher than any dispute. And with that, we reach the end of today's video. Don't miss the opportunity to follow all the new content by subscribing to the channel and activating the notification bell to stay updated with all that is new.